Some pretty big news in the world of AI and mathematics, because over the weekend, AI has essentially by itself solved 3 different open problems in mathematics. And the hype machine is in full force. So let's try to understand what actually happened and try to decide if these were legendary problems or whether this news deserves millions of views and comments, and how big and important is this. And in case you're wondering, this is not some fake news, this is a real thing. For example, we have a post by Terry Tao explaining that yes, AI tools have completed this very important milestone in that they have solved an open problem, a real open problem, what we call an Erdos problem, and it was solved more or less autonomously by AI. The Erdos problems are legendary because they were proposed in some way or another by legendary mathematician Paul Erdos. And Erdos in particular is known because he was so prolific. He wrote so many different papers and he talked to so many mathematicians and proposed so many problems that he left a large collection of questions out there that are still not solved. And one of the problems that AI has solved is Erdos problem number 728 from erdosproblems.com. And yes, Erdos was a legendary mathematician. This is one of the problems that are in this collection of Erdos proposed problems. But is this a legendary problem in mathematics? And the answer is no. This is not a very important problem. And as far as I know, like mathematician Thomas Bloom commented in one of the threads about this problem, as far as we know, nobody has ever looked at this problem since it was proposed as an idle remark in one of Erdős's papers. For example, in the website about Erdos problems, there is a little table that says how many people like this problem. How many people have looked at the website and clicked on I like this problem? There's only one person, and that actually appeared after this was proved. Interest in collaborating, none. Currently working on this problem, none. This problem looks difficult, none. This problem looks tractable, none. Nobody had actually looked at this problem in a long time. Nonetheless, it was an open problem that nobody had solved, so it is a big deal that AI by itself, more or less, found a solution. So how did AI come up with a proof? So there was a person called Kevin Barreto who is not a mathematician and has written a great thread on Reddit about how he found the solution. The description of how he engineered the AI tools to come up with an answer is really interesting because he describes how earlier tools in AI and other makes of AI, such as the Gemini 3 Pro or DeepThink, were not good enough. And they make hallucinations that gave wildly incorrect answers and made big assumptions that were not proved, fatal arithmetic errors, and so on. And progress only started when he started using ChatGPT 5.2. And even so, it's really interesting that he had to cut off internet access to the ChatGPT engine because otherwise it would recognize it as an open problem and it would not even get started. And then without internet access, gave the problem to ChatGPT 5.2, and ChatGPT started coming up with things that looked like answers. At that point, Barreto reached out to a graduate student in mathematics, and then there was this back and forth between Acer and Barreto in that they would take one of those proofs, feed it to a separate instance of ChatGPT 5.2, found some errors that it fixed, and once it had sort of like converged to a proof, then they made it into a LaTeX proof and then fed it to harmonics Aristotle to formalize it into Lean. Then tried to compile that proof, but there were some warnings trying to compile that proof. But Claude Opus 4.5 was able to fix those problems in the proof and make a proof that actually compiled. So it looked like a legitimate proof. And then they posted this proof in the Erdos Problems website. And then Terry Tao enters the chat. Tao labeled the solution as partial because it only proved partially what Erdos probably intended, but gave a hint of how one could modify the proof to make it into a full proof. And then Barreto in a new instance of ChatGPT 5.2 fed that suggestion from Tao, and ChatGPT almost immediately found a proof of the full problem 728. And this proof was again formalized using Aristotle, and the proof compiles in Lean, so it is very likely a proof of problem 728.